right.
So do about
Just
10,000 other
start
people in this
streaming.
town.
Is it going?
1 second.
Gotta get our promotion going.
Just straighten those up.
Yeah, I know. They're getting some free pub. This is gonna be good. All right, water.
Should be good.
We're rolling?
Set, yep.
All right, welcome to the Sobriety Rock Show. And a little birdie told me that you said you wish you were more prepared. And one Michael Herbster said, why? Crandall's not going to be prepared. That is awesome. And very true. Because I don't want to have people prepare for this because it ruins it. Then it looks like it's all canned and everything, right?
True.
So I'll start with that since I didn't prepare as usual anyways. What did you think you had to prepare for?
I like to have a plan. I like to be organized. I like to be prepared. And so it was giving me a little bit of anxiety this morning, just not knowing, what the conversation was going to be about. Because I just, I really like to plan.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a real easy question to start with. What's your name and why are you doing this today?
My name is Stephanie Bettner, but everyone around is Desi. My family calls me Desi. It's been my nickname since I was born. And I'm doing this to give hope to people out there struggling.
Talk about your nickname for that. How did you get that?
My older sister couldn't say Steffi. It came out as Desi, and it just stuck.
That's what I was trying to tell Todd. I'm like, I know there's a message in there of some kind, So when you just said you want to, share your stuff to help somebody else, I love it. That's what we do at Racing for Recovery. What would you say to your former self when you first came in to here that would make you stay here?
Pay attention.
Why?
Because that's what got me to stay here this time.
Good answer. What was different, and we can get into your past a little bit. So what do you think was different in previous attempts that you didn't pay attention, and what made you pay attention this time?
Well, I had gone through another program once previously, but unfortunately there was no accountability. I never had to be clean, and actually successfully completed that other program while never ever once having a clean drug screen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how to respond to that.
So this is legitimately my first attempt, being fully clean, and right now today I'm 2 weeks from a year.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How do you feel about that?
Proud.
Let me back up a minute. So when you're doing that previous attempt at this and there was no accountability, were you looking to have accountability, or were you glad you didn't have any?
I think at the time I was glad I didn't, because I wasn't ready.
That's why I'm asking you that question, because, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but for me, a drug test, I'm like, I wouldn't even give them. Because if they're willing to pay attention, a drug test, I don't know really what it's for other than to validate some stuff and write a letter to a court.
Right.
But if you know you want this and you're applying it and it's working, it's me a test or not, I know what I'm doing because I'm accountable to myself, right?
Which was my path this time. I did an inpatient rehab for 2 months before I came here, which I put myself into, and then followed up here at Racing for Recovery on my own.
That's the difference this time. So can you tell people like when you were in this last time, you put yourself in, the mindset of going in, and then how you found us?
I wanted something more for my life. I cried and felt extensively that I deserved more in my life. More for my life, more for my kids' lives. And I love the story of how I found Racing for Recovery, because I was actually signed up for another program. And I was doing some research on that other program on my phone one night, and every time I tried to pull up their website, I kept getting redirected to Racing for Recovery. So I was like, started doing some research and called the very next morning and actually got you on the phone, and we talked for almost an hour.
Wow.
And I was like, that's it.
So what, I want you to convey this to somebody else who may be in where you were. What was it that appealed to you that Racing for Recovery was offering that you may or may not have even known was possible before? The ability to be in a recovery program but still have the choices be mine. Yep. On how I wanted to recover. So what's that been like? How have you implemented that into your own new life now? We talk a lot about the spokes on the wheel and the balance, and I really like that, my balance isn't the same as your balance. Right. And the things that I need to implement in my daily life aren't going to be the same as, anybody else. I pray every morning. I really enjoy having my quiet time. I do try and wake up a few minutes before the kids get up to just kind of, center myself for the day. When my back pain allows, I stretch. Sometimes, it makes it worse, the exercising, but I did see the chiropractor yesterday. Awesome. And I can move my neck for the first time in 2 weeks. So that's amazing. Real quick, that's Dr. Jessica Lockhart, who we just brought into Racing for Recovery yesterday, right? She is amazing. Yeah, she's good. Mm-hmm. I like I said before, I have almost 2 weeks clean, but I still continue to come to the educational groups because I feel for my recovery. I spent 26 years in addiction. I'm not gonna figure everything out in just a few months. This is a lifetime process. And it's very important to me to go to multiple support group meetings every week. I was just talking to Mike, who's sitting in here watching you do this now, but I've really, over the course of being around amazing people and watching this first year of the transformation that takes place, it's almost like 4 quarters of a football game. So I'd like you, if you can, describe like what the first 3 months were like, and then how that transferred into the 3 to 6 month, and then the 6 to 9 month, and then 9 to 12. Can you like chronological put that into some type of order in that? Those first 3 months were getting used to feeling anything and everything, because it had been so long since I had felt anything, good or bad. I mean, there's such a numbing that comes along with addiction, and that you just, like, it was, hard to get used to. And so then, after that,
you learn I had to learn how to then process those emotions and deal with them and effectively express them. And so I think that was the first 6 months,
Right.
Learning how to communicate, deal with my emotions, and how to communicate with people in my lives, not only about what they needed, but what I needed. And then I think 6 to 9 months, it was just kind of settling into my recovery routine, what I needed to do every single day to maintain it long term. And now my life, is changing again. Like I'm looking for jobs, like I'm working on becoming a more productive member of society. I'm going to be registering for school. I really want to go back to school, continue my education. So now I'm looking at, more of the future, whereas I think the last year I've just been kind of focused on getting myself better and just healing myself to sustain my lifelong recovery.
So that was awesome. You remember when I used to, I'd run in the morning, I'd run past your house, and you
Yeah.
guys would be sitting on the porch at like 5:30
Yep.
and stuff, and it turned into like this thing that we had. That was during your 3 to 6 month phase, right? So hearing you talk about how you had to, you're dealing with your emotions, you're coming out of it, but at the same time, you're learning through our educational groups of what like this balanced lifestyle is. And I'm thinking when, I was doing my thing physically, but then I've listened to you over the next 6 months where you've talked about, well, now I started to meditate, or now I'm starting to do this. And that's part of what we're doing here, and you're doing it with your interview, is to show people the progression and how it's done, and then what it's like to be doing it.
Right.
Right? So how have you now taken some of this stuff and where you've kind of found your stride within Racing for Recovery that's utilizing your talents?
Well, in my addiction, I lost all my friends. I lost so many people either to suicide or overdose. And coming in here, I had no one outside my family. I talked to my parents and my siblings, and there was no one else. And I really necessary to form a strong peer support group, and it was really important to me for others. I really saw a need for that here, and so I started, planning little activities for us, and we've really built a strong support system within, just learning how to have sober fun. We do bowling, movies, we go out to eat after meetings, play laser tag, and I really enjoy organizing. I'm at the beginning of this talk, I'm a planner, I like to organize, and it's a way that I've really been able to utilize my talents to help other people.
How has that helped you? You got a question?
Yeah, we had one question whenever it's
Nope, go ahead.
Somebody asked, what is your favorite part of your sobriety that you were missing out on when you were using?
Having friends. Having good, close friends that I can rely on, and just the support that I have. The support and the friendships and, who are like family now that I have now, I've never had that ever. And it's just, we talk about it all the time, how most people, come into this feeling that way because there's so much isolation that goes into addiction. And, and especially when you first get clean, you have to give up, all those people in your life, because they're only, if they're not it's almost like if they're not with you, then they're against you. And so it's just, I am so grateful for all the relationships that I formed within this program.
It's interesting that question came as we were talking about her finding your niche in our program, right? So how have you then, it's helping you, you just conveyed that. How have you seen and here with the social aspect of our balanced lifestyle, how have you seen that helping other people?
Well, whether or not, we invite everyone. Mm-hmm. We don't exclude anyone. We have our sober group mm-hmm. on Facebook, and we 30, 40 plus members post daily on, looking for support or inspiration, things like that. And we always post our activities there. And when I post, that we're doing something, we invite everyone, whether they're currently active or not. And, you always want to just remind people that we're out here and we're doing stuff. And, every once in a while we'll get that one person who's been out for a long time, and it'll bring them back in and remind them. And we just talked about this in the educational group on Thursday, how a good friend of mine was currently using, and he came to one of our events, and he's now celebrating 6 months.
That's awesome. Yeah. How you brought this up yesterday, and I definitely want you to convey this to people that are watching, but you had mentioned how you feel that it's like your obligation, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to reach female audience, to get more females active in Racing for Recovery, because they may or may not have this different perception of what we are and what we're not. So can you talk about how you feel that's so important to you?
Yeah, because when I first came in, there still aren't very many females, and I feel like there were females that I could look up to. I mean, there's a couple, but so I've just tried to be to other females coming in what I wanted when I first came in. We have different issues than the guys. Yep. And, there's a lot of things that men just don't understand because they just don't have to deal with it. So it's really important for me to be that strength and support, and, in any capacity that I can to anybody new coming in. And like I told you, it's one of the reasons why I maintain coming to the educational groups, so that I can reach out to the new people, because they don't necessarily come to the support group meetings. And so it's just another way for me to reach out. You and a couple other girls who have gone through the educational groups, you're right, I'm a guy, I see this as, well, let's, have everybody together, but being in the educational group where there's only, 24 of us, when you start listening to how the girls would talk, that was really the catalyst for us to say, we got to have these support group meetings that are female and male, and that's why we started every noon on Tuesdays. There's a women's only and there's a men's only, yes, because specifically of what you and a couple other girls have brought to this. So thank you for that. Yeah, I was very happy when we started doing that. I pushed for that hard.
Right. Let's see. So what else? What do you see the next? I'm going to even stretch it out. We'll give you a year. So what do you see the next year of your recovery? What does that look like? What are you envisioning?
Lots of schoolwork. lots of education. I have no plans to, quit doing what I've been doing. I don't foresee that happening, and I don't want that to happen. I really enjoy everything that I do within this program and outside of this program. I spend a lot of time with my family. you know, and planning the events, volunteering, and getting a part-time job, because it'll be a lot to take on, I know, with working and school. So I do plan on taking that slow, so as not to overwhelm myself.
You just validated a lot of what we have believed in since 2001. When people may think it sounds cliche, oh, a balanced, holistic lifestyle. Well, that sounds cliche and some type of hippie guru movement or whatever. But what you were just saying, it validates exactly what we're talking about. You have worked hard. You're ready to implement some new parts of your self-betterment, but you're cognizant of the fact of, well, I can't leave everything that put me in the position of where I am. I have to figure out how to do everything in a balanced manner to keep it going. And can you talk about how that really is resonating with you and how important that is?
I mean, how am I going to keep my sobriety if I don't keep doing all the things that got me sober in the first place? Like, that just doesn't make any sense.
That is the biggest mistake, and I know you've seen other people that have done it. They do certain things that help them get to a certain level, and then they stop and they get this case of, I got it. And that's the first warning sign of, well, how do you keep it? I don't want to say somebody's going to lose it. The question is, how are you going to keep it if you stop doing that?
Well, it's extremely important to me to stay very active. I spend 5 days a week in this building.
Yeah. Any more questions still? Go ahead, Mike.
Desi, we talk about the fence a lot. Did you ever find yourself fence, and if so, what quarter of your sobriety was that in, and what did you do to deal with that?
Honestly, no. When I started this journey, I was so ready for it that nothing to do with my old life. And in fact, I refer to it as my previous life.
Great question, Mike, and I want to elaborate on that because that's one of the things we've developed in our educational group is the proverbial fence. And what that means is there's two sides of it. The fence separates those that are using and those that are not. And it's our belief, if you will, that when you're fortunate enough and blessed to cross over the fence into recovery, it's your job to get as further away from that as possible. Not that you don't want to remember where you were, not that you're not empathetic and supportive of those that are on the other side, but it's not your job to cross the fence and try and pull people back over. It's to go away from it, to give a constant example of those that are on the addiction side of, look how good it is to be on the recovery side.
Right. I was actually just speaking with a fellow member last night after the meeting who was concerned that maybe he was getting too close to the fence. And, you know, I was just telling him that I felt like, you know, it's okay to be, you know, in safe contact with people because sometimes they do need that beacon of hope.
Right.
You know, because if you're doing it, then, oh, maybe I can do it.
But you send that beacon of hope from where you are,
right?
Not going
Absolutely.
back.
A
Going,
safe
do you see my
distance.
beacon, right?
Yeah.
See my beacon right next to the addiction? Yeah, that's perfect. Great question. And I'm pretty certain why you asked that question. That's even better. That's good. Any more questions on coming through there?
Not right now.
Did you see your pictures? Well, of course you did. Talk about, are they up? Did you post their pictures?
This one, yep.
So describe those two people.
Oh gosh, you know, it was really interesting when I was going back through my pictures because I had a tough time finding a picture in active addiction because I didn't take pictures,
Right.
and that picture was actually one that my daughter had taken of me, and that made me sad.
Wow.
That, I mean, because, you know, I mean, obviously you see what sort of state I'm in that picture, and just to, you know, for my daughter to have that kind of mom, you know, is just, it's hard for me.
Talk about the other picture though.
Oh man, she's a happy girl.
That's right.
she's feeling good and she is proud.
Who took that one?
Brian.
Okay.
Brian wrote it, a fellow member that was taken
Yeah.
here in this building.
So, not to, because we don't do that, not to beat you up for the former self, but how do you use that to keep enhancing the good side that you've become now?
Self-destruction ends when you quit hurting yourself. Yeah, I do still have some remorse that comes up, but it doesn't last as long, those moments now, because I know that I'm not that person anymore, and that, you know, my daughter doesn't have that mom anymore, and my son's never gonna know that mom.
So how does it feel to be breaking the cycle of addiction for your kids?
It feels good. It really does. I have a very open relationship with my daughter. She knew when I went away that I was sick and needed to get healthy, and she loves being in this building. You know, I bring my nieces and my nephew here all the time, and I just actually took them Racing for Recovery shirts and sweatshirts last night because they had been begging me for them. So, you know, we have a very open relationship. Unfortunately, my niece's father struggles with addiction, so it is a pretty open topic in my family.
You know, and I love saying this, Racing for Recovery was we're the first program to implement a support group meeting format that included everybody at once, and now bringing this live stream that is, you know, it's reaching people globally. Were you freaked out about having us go live with this stuff, or did you feel it like, hey, this is a great opportunity just to simply spread our message?
No, I thought it was an amazing opportunity. In fact, I remember the very media for you. I was a little hesitant, and you're like, well, why? You know, are you going to go back on it? And I was like, no, hell no.
Right.
Absolutely not. Like, I have nothing to hide at all. And, you know, if anything I say is going to help another person, then it's worth it.
Can you say too that by doing this, you're holding yourself accountable to the walk, as we say in
Oh,
here?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I have quite a few friends and family from all over the country, hopefully watching right now.
Awesome. Do you have anything you want to say in closing, or questions that you want to ask me that I can ask you more stuff?
Man, I don't think so. We covered a lot.
Got another question here.
Yeah.
Said, would you say being open and honest with your kids and your addiction has helped bring your family closer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because my daughter's 8, and you know, there were mornings, many mornings when I woke up sick, and you know, she didn't understand, and I'm not sure exactly how far her understanding goes, but she's happier now than she was a year ago. Absolutely.
I have a question for you. I'd like to know, give me some examples of, we'll do females that you've seen in here that you have learned what to do to further your recovery, and you've learned what not to do.
Well, the what not to do is definitely easier, unfortunately. As far as the what to do, it was really, you know, to not be ashamed of my story, especially with talking to my kids about it. That was probably, you know, harder, you know, one of the harder things that I've had to deal with, but to be honest, and I feel like the honesty only builds character. Mm-hmm. As far as what not to do, it is in my experience and things that I've witnessed are females seeking validation from outside themselves, which can lead to down a rocky road.
I asked you that question for a very specific reason, and you did it again by answering it the way you did. The difference between those two is one takes work. But with that work, you get the benefits, as you said. And you said it right to start with, well, one's easy. And if it's easy, it's probably not worth it. But if you're putting the work into it, you're going to get a lot more out of it. That was perfect.
'Cause it just builds your self-esteem and self-confidence and, helps you to grow even more.
Any other questions in there, Ty?
Just a awesome comment at the end here. It says, "You're awesome and a walking example of how to be sober, but how to live. I love you. You rock."
Thanks.
That's perfect. No, I am, it sounds so weird for me to say like you're one of my kids or something, but I'm proud of what I've been privileged to watch you do. I did your assessment. I've watched you for a year evolve, and not only evolve for yourself, but what that's turned into being a better mom, a friend, and a coordinator of our social activities to help other people experience what you're doing. So keep going.
I will.
We're out. That's it.